All right, welcome back. So let's talk about some creative financing techniques. These are going to be things that you can do to sell your house quickly, under market, or even at market in some very unique situations, possibly over, still justifying it. But again, the math has to make sense and the house has to appraise for somebody to get a mortgage and you to get cashed out. What we're going to talk about is a use and occupancy transaction or a rent to own. We could talk a little bit about short term personal loans, which is a way that you can actually loan the buyer down payment, get it back with your proceeds, and not pay taxes on what you actually lend it out. Private second mortgages, which do work in some occasions. Then we're going to talk about rate buy downs, sellers concessions, and knowing your programs with your mortgage company, which we covered earlier on Peace with Matt Victoria on mortgages. But I hope you see how this all gels together. These are all tools that go in your utility belt. You're gonna be like fucking Batman by the time you're done with this course. So let's get into it. Let's talk about a rent to own, use and occupancy agreement. And I mean, it's really simple. A use and occupancy is not going to make them a tenant. It is going to state that it doesn't make them a tenant. And a rent to own will make them a tenant. A rent to own, they sign a normal lease and they sign a purchase and sales agreement. You're going to watch a lot of these courses on rent to own. And honestly, they're all bullshit. Simplify, simplify, simplify. The simplest answer is the best. If you start using mathematical formulas and trying to figure out how much goes towards the purchase price and everything else, it's going to be a train wreck if you ever have to evict this tenant and go to court. Ask me how I know that. Again, use and occupancy. The way that I would typically do this is I would put somebody in my property, and this is what I use in New Jersey more often than not, and I give them a purchase and sales agreement to buy the house at a certain price for 365 days, an entire year. In New Jersey or New York, I then give them a use and occupancy agreement, which makes them a tenant buyer, not a tenant. I can also give them a lease for 12 months, which would make them a tenant, which means I would have to evict them, which means if they ever had any kind of grievance with the purchase and sales agreement, that's a whole nother court thing. Big advocate of using the use and occupancy agreement versus the rent to the own. Those of you who actually acquired this course have got the binder with all the necessary documents. I hope that really helps you out a lot. Anyway, this is going to be when somebody has a large down payment cash. And I mean, determine what large is. I'm not doing this for a security deposit. But, you know, if they give me 10, 20% of the purchase price, you know, it could be 10, 20, 30 grand, 40, 50, non-refundable. And then whether it's use and occupancy or rent to own, we agree to a monthly payment of, let's say, $2,000. So the house is 300,000. They've given me 30 on a purchase and sales agreement for 365 days, non-refundable. I've handed them over to Orlando. He starts restoring their credit. I monitor everything. I watch their credit go up. They pay me on a use and occupancy or a lease $2,000 a month. I watch the credit go up 6, 8 months. When their credit is high enough to actually get a mortgage, then it's time to start the pre-qualification process. You may have to write up another purchase and sales agreement as of the date that their credit is good again, and it's going to be for the same price. And again, that's just so the underwriters at the mortgage company are incredibly happy and they get cashed out. You've killed the goose that laid the golden egg if you were making money every month, and you get a big check. But that's how a rent to own or a use and occupancy agreement would work. Again, use and occupancy strictly states that it does not make them the tenant. Instead, they're a future owner. They're called like a tenant buyer or an occupancy with the right to purchase. So you guys can read through that in the binder and use whichever one you think you're going to use. If you got any questions and you're going down this road, feel free to contact my office. The next thing is going to be a short-term personal loan. And I mean, loan programs change with a great degree of frequency. But if your mortgage company lending to your buyer allows for gifts, if you gift them money, you're not getting it back. If you gift them money and you use a short-term personal loan agreement, which we've included with the course as well, and you have to give them 30, 60, even 80 grand, if you have that money, go for it. If you don't, you can always contact me I might hook you up depending on the transaction. You do not ever put this money in their bank account. That is a fucking mistake. Ask me how I know that. They might use it, they might spend it, you might never see them again. Instead, you give that check to the lawyer that you have steered them to, because remember, you're not a realtor and steering is actually a good thing. Would want to not steer. You're going to crash the car if you're a realtor. You give that money to your lawyer with a copy of the short-term personal loan agreement. So when it comes back, he's got a copy of that in his file. It's already been signed with the buyer. That's their down payment. You're probably going to have to sign a gift letter with the mortgage company you're using as well. When that deal closes and those funds have been sourced and seasoned to get the loan, you'll get that 30 grand that you lent them back with your proceeds, whatever they may be. Let's say it's $100,000 plus 30. So now you got 130. You only have to pay taxes on the 100 because the 30 is the return of borrowed money. You're welcome, and your deals will close quicker. I know you didn't sell it for full price, but you did sell it quickly, and I really hope that helps. A rate buy down, if you're going to give your buyer a seller's concession, or if your buyer has another mortgage company or another mortgage broker that they're really dying to use, I typically ask for a copy of a pre-approval letter, and that'll state what interest rate you can get a loan at. I can say with total confidence that if you use my mortgage broker, who you've met on a previous video, you're going to want to use him, because if you use mine, not only am I going to give you a seller's concession to pay for all of your closing costs, but I'm also going to give you a rate buy down, whatever they allow. Could be a quarter point, could be a half a point. But, you know, if you got an interest rate at this day and age, at the time of recording this video, at 5.5%, and I can get that just down to 5% for the next 30 years, do the math. I've literally put one of your kids through college. You're welcome. Seller's concession. I mean, we are selling these houses many times under market, and that's how they go so quickly. So this will just allow me to cut into my proceeds and give them whatever their lender that I have steered them to will allow me to give them. So they don't have to come out of pocket for any of their closing costs. Will they pay it back? Yeah, they're going to pay it back over the next 30 years on the mortgage that they took out, but it's $15,000 times a 30-year mortgage times a nominal interest rate. It's like, it's literally like $1.75 a month. I think they'll be okay. You know, just don't go to Starbucks one day. And yeah, I'm definitely a big advocate of knowing your loan programs, because that's how you know what creative strategies to use and how you can back into what's going to get you cashed out quickly. Nomad Victoria, our mortgage broker, was a big advocate of reverse engineering transactions. As always, you're going to pre-screen all of your buyers, and you're going to build a buyers list and collect and retain them. You can even turn your entire buyers list over to Orlando Taylor. He'll just literally start restoring their credit and calling all of them for you and grooming these people to be competent buyers in the near future. I usually like to push everything through Pat Live. I'm old. I use Virtual Assistant. I like this. They email me everything. I mean, you could use different web portals, whatever, but never lose a contact, because buyers are going to be a bigger asset to your business than sellers when the market turns. Qualifying buyers, the important stuff that you're going to need to get to your mortgage broker, and he can ask them, or you can ask them, is their name, their address, and their social security number. If you're using my Pat Live system and you've mentioned my name, so you get the discount on the setup, they'll actually give you my script for pre-qualifying buyers already, so you don't have to worry about this. But name, address, and social security number are three things that you're going to need all the time, every time. Then you're going to put together a sales agreement. Right now, the way that we do this, we use the exact same purchase and sales agreement when we sell that we do when we buy. So we already know that we have a liquidated damages clause in our purchase and sales agreement, and that language is actually throughout the entire purchase and sales agreement. So when I buy, I give somebody $10. If I don't close, the liquidated damages clause says, as a settlement of any damages that may have been occurred as a result of the buyer not performing when I'm buying me, okay, they get to keep my full binder deposit as a settlement, which we know is seldom more than $10. But when people buy from me, I want as much as possible, 10, 20, 30, 100 grand. And if they don't close, that same liquidated damages language now works in my favor, and I get to keep their entire binder deposit as a full settlement. Now, here's a side note: never fucking give the binder deposit to a lawyer. Never give the binder deposit to a title company. Take that shit yourself and put it in your own account, because lawyers and title companies and even realtors have this fiduciary responsibility where they can lose a license. Well, I don't have a license. Fuck you. You didn't close. I'm keeping your deposit. All right. Fight me. You're not going to do it. You're going to close. Um, Selling subject to is something that I've done on occasion when people can't get a loan. I know that the down payment is about all the money that I'm going to make. I can make up the rest with monthly payments, paying the mortgage. I can then deed that property over directly to my seller, subject to its existing mortgage. This way they don't have to take one out. However, if they stop making payments on that mortgage, whoever's name it was in, credit will go to shit unless it's already been discharged in bankruptcy. And assignment of contract, we went over that pretty thoroughly in the assignment of contract module. I don't think you need too much on that. Just again, get as large of a down payment as possible. Do not meet the seller at the house when you sell the property. Never fucking meet the seller at the house, because then they're going to go, oh, there's a fucking crack over there. Fuck you. I didn't drive out here for you to offend me and tell me everything that's wrong with this fucking property. It's sold as is, where is. There's no fucking allowance. We're going to draw up a purchase and sales agreement. And if your lawyer asks me for one later, I'm going to ask him to kindly go fuck himself. Then I'm going to call you directly, because I know you want to buy this property and I know I want to sell it. And I'm going to tell you to curb the lawyer that I gave you, because you're already using him anyway, and you will. I may even tell him to shut the fuck up. I'm going to get a large down payment from the particular buyer, and the larger it is, the more likely they are to close, especially if you're the one who's holding it and you don't have to give it back. Repairs are absolute bullshit unless you need them to get like an FHA loan. Don't do fucking repairs. Repairs are a waste of money. If you need to do repairs to sell a house, your salesmanship sucks, and you probably should be a realtor who just is a glorified deal opener. Instead, try this. Hey, listen, you're going to go through this house, and I know it's not in the greatest shape, but this house is not just an opportunity for anybody. This house is an opportunity for somebody with vision. You got vision, don't you? All right, listen, you looked at the house, you've come back to me, you're telling me there's some things you don't like, some things you need to pick and fix and do other shit. Go through the house and make me a list of everything you want replaced. You want a new bathroom vanity? Write it down. You want a new stove? Write it down. You want new kitchen counters? Write it down. Fantastic. Go to Home Depot and price that shit out for me. Great, thank you. Take pictures of the skewts and everything. Wonderful. At the closing table, I am going to meet you with a Home Depot gift card in that exact amount. You could do the repairs yourself. If you do repairs before the buyer closes, especially if they pick out some weird shit, have like walls painted orange or something, and then they don't close, you're stuck with their house. You just didn't own it yet, and now you got to sell somebody else's dream to a different person. It's not as easy. So just remember, repairs are for suckers. Home Depot gift card, credit with contractor is the way to go all the time, every time. I hope you have enjoyed this, and I hope you learn how to really tilt the odds in your favor here. If you'd like a little bit more information, feel free to hit up our office, and yeah, let us know when you got one under contract and getting ready to crank it out the back end. I'll talk to you soon. This is Chuck Kohout signing off. Bye for now.